A sleek vehicle was on its way to bring her to the appointment. An assistant led Lee Hae-sung into a stunning private villa and asked her to wait. The place felt like another world, but her peace was shattered by her phone buzzing. A message from someone named Yoonjo asked if she'd arrived safely. Panic surged through her. How did they get her number? Had they figured out her secret? Taking a shaky breath, she reminded herself this was for Jaewon. The thought echoed in her mind. The baby wasn't actually her child. It was a silent truth, one that was never spoken but always understood. Lost in thought, Hae-sung's mind drifts to her sister's final wish. On her deathbed, she made Hae-sung promise to tell Jaewon the truth one day, that he was born from a beautiful, sincere love forged during a month in Paris. He was the precious flower his mother had bloomed with her entire life. This heavy secret weighs on her, but her thoughts are suddenly cut short by a man's voice calling her name. Startled, she looks up as an imposing man in a sharp suit steps into the room and introduces himself as Moon Tae-ha. Hae-sung nervously greets the imposing man, her heart pounding. She remembers her sister's words, that she and her lover never asked each other personal details. Even though they look like twins, she wonders if he truly doesn't recognize her. Tae-ha cuts straight to business, stating his first step is a paternity test. When she asks what comes after, he turns the tables, pointing out her question is an admission of their connection. His logic stuns her into silence. He declares that once paternity is proven, the child will receive all rightful legal privileges. Tae-ha's eyes narrow, instantly assuming she's talking about inheritance. A smug smirk crosses his face. He knew it was about the money. He coldly informs her that compensation would be provided for her time raising the child alone. Confused, Hae-sung tries to explain that's not what she meant. She just wanted to know what the child needed from him. But Tae-ha cuts through her stammering with a shocking statement. Of course, that's not all. His family will be raising the child. The reality of his words crashes down on her. They plan to take Jaewon away. Her mind reels. This man, who calls himself the father, never sent a single word after the baby was born. And now he just wants to take Jaewon away? Her hands tremble as she finds her voice, declaring she doesn't need his money because the child is her entire world. Unmoved, Tae-ha poses a cold question about the boy's welfare. He asks if she really thinks living as a single mother's son is better than being the son of the CEO of Taegang law firm. The powerful name stuns her, her hands clenching instantly. The name Taegang law firm hits her like a tidal wave. It's a global powerhouse. Tae-ha declares they have no intention of giving up the child. He then strikes a low blow, revealing he knows she grew up in an orphanage. Hae-sung flinches. He ran a background check. He coolly asks if her own maternal affection is worth blocking the boy from a life of privilege. His words cripple her resolve. Remembering her own difficult childhood, she trembles, wondering if letting Jaewon go is the right thing to do. Just as her resolve crumbles, a sudden thought strikes Hae-sung. It's been bothering her from the start, the look in his eyes. He doesn't look at her like a man with the mother of his child. Even though he strongly resembles Jaewon, she becomes certain this man is not the father. Her fear is instantly replaced by a wave of defiance. Standing her ground, she demands to know what right he has to take Jaewon, boldly pointing out that he can't even be sure if he's the real father. Tae-ha's expression remains cold. Tae-ha finally reveals his connection to the baby. He's the uncle. Hae-sung isn't shocked, realizing this gives her an edge. An uncle can't just take custody that easily. Tae-ha then cuts to the chase, demanding to know what she knows about someone named Bordizan. Hae-sung goes completely still. She confesses she knows absolutely nothing about the biological father. Her past was complicated. Her own father-in-law had disapproved of her marriage, developing a twisted obsession with her that continued long after she was a married woman. Tae-ha agrees to her challenge. He calmly states that if she really cares for the child, she'll cooperate with a paternity test. As he turns to leave, Hae-sung bolts to her feet. There's one last thing she needs to know. She demands to know where the child's real father is. The question stops him cold. He turns back and finally reveals the truth. Before his brother passed away, he confessed that the woman he loved might be pregnant with his child. The shocking revelation hits Hae-sung all at once. Jaewon's father is gone. Hae-sung's world shatters. A month ago, the date freezes her in place. It was the exact day her own sibling passed away. A horrifying thought clicks into place. If Tae-ha's brother died on that day, it means little Jaewon lost both of his parents at the same time. The crushing weight of the revelation is too much to bear. Her strength gives out, and she begins to collapse, her vision going dark. Tae-ha rushes forward, catching her just before she hits the floor. He desperately calls out her name, his voice tight with panic. Hae-sung's eyes snap open. She finds herself in an unfamiliar, luxurious bed, the memory of her collapse rushing back. Getting to her feet, she spots Tae-ha in the next room, just ending a phone call. He turns and holds out her phone, explaining that he had to answer after she kept getting missed calls. Hae-sung quietly apologizes for all the trouble. He dismisses her apology, instead offering her a cup of tea. He tells her the doctor recommended it and insists he'll drive her home once she feels ready. Tae-ha is taking full responsibility. Flustered by his kindness, Hae-sung tells him he doesn't need to go to such trouble. Tae-ha just tells her to wait, stepping out of the room and leaving her alone. She sinks onto the sofa, her phone lighting up with worried messages from her husband. He freaked out when a strange man answered her phone and was worried about both her and Jaewon. As Hae-sung's mind spirals, she questions her choices. Meanwhile, Tae-ha returns to his office, cutting through his assistant's talk of piled-up work. He demands to know if there's anything new on Lee Hae-sung. His assistant delivers a bombshell. A large sum of money was recently deposited into her account. Though the source is unknown, he provides more context. Hae-sung grew up in an orphanage and left a convent right when the head nun was diagnosed with terminal cancer. The plot thickens around her mysterious past and sudden wealth. Tae-ha's assistant continues his report. After the head nun passed away, Hae-sung met Tae-ha's brother, Tae-hyun, in Paris. Tapping the desk, Tae-ha's mind races. A woman who was about to devote her life to religion suddenly had a child after a trip and became a single mother. It's a bizarre story. His mind flashes back to a memory. His brother, Tae-hyun, looking frail in a hospital bed, delivers a shocking confession. He admits that during his trip to Paris, he might have conceived a child. The final piece of the puzzle clicks into place. Tae-ha's mind is thrown back to his brother's final moments, a desperate plea for him to protect them. The memory cuts to Tae-hyun's funeral, where Tae-ha walked solemnly down a long, quiet hall. He remembers his father's heartbreaking words about a family curse. Heirs were rare in their family, and an old superstition said that if a daughter-in-law bore two sons, one was fated to die. Though Tae-hyun had been frail since childhood, his father never imagined the superstition would actually come true, leaving him to mourn his lost son. Tae-ha's world freezes as he confirms his darkest suspicion. The family curse is real. For generations, only one male heir of Taegang survived. Tae-hyun's death was the final, devastating proof. A chilling realization dawns on him. If he ever has a son, the curse dictates that either his child or Tae-hyun's child would be in peril. He had intended to raise the boy as his own to protect him, but things have gotten complicated. With newfound determination, he rises from his desk, announcing he's leaving and needs his driver immediately. Outside in the pouring rain, Tae-ha grabs Hae-sung's arm. His assistant rushes over with an umbrella, urging him to stop, but Tae-ha completely ignores him with a dismissive smirk. Another subordinate sternly tells him to let her go. Unfazed, Tae-ha pulls her closer until she's right in front of him. Drenched from the downpour, Hae-sung's clothes cling to her body. She looks up at him, shaken and confused, demanding to know what he thinks he's doing. But he just stares down at her, his expression unreadable in the storm. Back at her apartment, Hae-sung sits with her sister, who immediately gets to the point. Moon Tae-ha dropped her off personally. Hae-sung quietly confirms that he now knows where she lives. Her sister states the obvious. Tae-ha's family must believe Hae-sung is Jaewon's mother. A wave of anxiety washes over Hae-sung, but her sister reminds her that all the official records list her as the mother. It was her late sibling's doing. Looking at the sleeping baby, Hae-sung confesses she's overwhelmed and doesn't know what's best for him. Hae-sung's sister asks what Moon Tae-ha is really like, noting that Hae-sung said he wasn't totally unreasonable. The question sends a sudden shiver through Hae-sung. An imposing image of Tae-ha flashes in her mind. She recalls the intense feeling of being near him, how it left her feeling overwhelmed and deeply uncomfortable. The memory of them just hours ago, standing together in the pouring rain, is still vivid. Looking back at her sister, Hae-sung finally admits her honest impression. Moon Tae-ha seems like a genuinely scary person. He overpowers her will, pulling her firmly onto his lap. She demands to know what he thinks he's doing, but her voice is lost in his overwhelming presence. The intense memory shatters, leaving her standing alone in a sudden downpour. Completely drenched, she can only stammer, trying to process what just happened. From a distance, her colleagues can only stare, stunned into silence. Hae-sung stands frozen, her composure completely washed away by the rain and the crushing weight of his revelation. A shadow falls over her as Moon Tae-ha approaches. Without a word, he drapes his suit jacket over her shivering shoulders. But his next words are sharp, not kind. He coldly asks if she's trying to get his attention with a cheap trick. He tells her he's disappointed and has no interest in cliches. Before a flustered Hae-sung can properly respond, he simply commands her to follow him. Tae-ha brings the drenched Hae-sung inside to a private room. Utterly bewildered, she clutches a towel, trying to make sense of the situation. After a moment, she steels herself to speak. But Tae-ha cuts in first, getting straight to the point. He demands to know what she wants from him. He coldly suggests that she came all this way, looking the way she does, with nothing important to say at all. Humiliated by his sharp accusation, Haesung's knuckles turn white as she silently wrings the towel in her hands. Haesung's mind races, trying to make sense of the situation. She hadn't planned to come here. A sudden tightness in her chest had driven her out into the night. It was just a coincidence that she ended up in front of his company building. But now she's facing the very man trying to take Jaewon from her. Her humiliation gives way to desperation. Swallowing her pride, she looks up at him with pleading eyes. With a shaky voice, she begs him to tell her what she needs to do to be allowed to raise Jaewon. Tae-ha scoffs at her question, calling her more reckless than he ever imagined. But Haesung is past caring. She trembles, admitting she's desperate and powerless against his giant corporation. She pleads with him, promising to do absolutely anything if he'll just let her raise Jaewon. A memory of holding the baby flashes through her mind. If she can't be his mother, she begs to at least be his nanny, just to watch him grow. With tears streaming down her face, she makes a solemn vow. She will never tell Jaewon the truth. Tae-ha leans in, tilting her chin up. He tells her the situation is unfortunate, but she needs to think rationally. He warns her that acting blindly like this isn't wise. Through her tears, Haesung confesses she doesn't know what to do. But Tae-ha coldly insists she already knows the answer. He steps back, arranging for a driver to take her home. As she leaves, his phone buzzes with a new message. It's from Gang Hyun. The paternity test results are finally in. The truth is just one click away. Tae-ha stares at the results on his phone. The answer is already decided, but he feels strangely conflicted, wondering if he was too harsh on Haesung. Her desperate face flashes in his mind. Her tears, her promise to do absolutely anything. He also recalls a past promise he made to protect them. The conflicting memories weigh on him. He sets the phone down with a thud, turning to face the rain-streaked window. A heavy sigh escapes his lips as he struggles with the complicated truth and the choice he now has to make. As he pictures her sleeping peacefully next to Jaewon, his assistant bursts into the office. The news is bad. The baby suddenly developed a high fever and was rushed to the hospital. To make things worse, the driver can't get in touch with Haesung at all. A deep frown creases Tae-ha's brow as frustration takes over. Tae-ha's frustration boils over as he demands to know why Haesung is unreachable. On the phone, Chief Hong confirms he can't get through to her either, but there's a new lead. Jaewon is on the hospital waiting list. He suggests waiting it out, since she obviously hasn't just run off with the baby. A short, cynical laugh escapes Tae-ha's lips. First, she shows up without warning, and now she vanishes without a word. He abruptly rises from his chair, ordering his assistant to cancel everything. They're going to the hospital.
Now.
An unsettling feeling pushes Tae-ha to move quickly. Over at the hospital, a frantic Haesung has already checked Jaewon into the emergency room. The pediatrician, Kim Sang-jin, confirms her fears. The baby's fever is dangerously high. As Jaewon lets out a pained cry, tears well up in Haesung's eyes, her face a mask of pure terror. The nurse then approaches, telling her to hold the baby still. They need to draw blood, and Haesung can only watch in helpless anguish as her small child suffers. As the doctor struggles to find a vein, he gently asks the baby to relax so they can help him. But Jaewon's cries only grow louder, and Haesung looks on with a heart full of dread. Seeing the baby's distress, the doctor changes tactics, telling Haesung to hold Jaewon's ankle so he can draw blood from his foot. She whispers words of comfort as the doctor carefully completes the task. Once it's over, Haesung pulls the now quiet baby into her arms, a wave of exhausted relief washing over her face. With a blood draw complete, Dr. Sang-jin assures Haesung that the 4 fluids should bring Jaewon's fever down. But then he brings up an awkward point. The father's name and blood type were left blank on the forms. Haesung's body tenses as she asks if that information is truly relevant to the baby's treatment. The doctor calmly insists that blood type is an important medical detail. Cornered, she deflects, promising to tell the nurse later. Sang-jin simply makes a note, but his probing question adds another layer of stress to her ordeal. Dr. Sang-jin tells Haesung to wait for the test results before leaving the room. But the way he looked at her leaves her completely rattled. She wonders if he somehow recognized her connection to Haeju. Shaking her head, she dismisses the thought. It's impossible, they have different names. As she lays the sleeping baby down, a voice suddenly cuts through the quiet room, announcing that Jaewon's test results are out. Startled, Haesung whips around, her heart pounding. The moment of truth has arrived. Haesung's shoulders slump in relief as she reads the results. It's just a mild fever from a cold. But her moment of peace is shattered when a man in a suit rushes down the hall. It's Chief Hong, and he looks frantic. He explains that the CEO is extremely worried now that he's heard the young master is sick. Flustered, Haesung says her phone was on silent. Hong brushes off her apology, stating he'll escort her home and asking where the baby is. Her quiet hospital visit is officially over. Suddenly, the world twists around Haesung. She stumbles, her vision blurring as a wave of dizziness washes over her. Barely able to speak, she reaches out to Chief Hong, pleading with him to take care of Jawon. Her strength fades and she crumples to the cold hospital floor. Chief Hong drops down beside her, his face pale with panic as he yells for help. But even as darkness consumes her, Haesung's only thought is of the baby. She has to get back to Jawon. A man in a sharp suit, Moon Tiha, stares down at baby Jawon. He can't help but notice the uncanny resemblance, remarking that the child is his spitting image. A flashback hits him. Even his own brother didn't look this much like him. As Jawon's tiny hand reaches out, the hospital's vice director rushes in, greeting Tiha formally. He explains he came as soon as he got the urgent summons. Now, Tiha stands over the small gurney, his expression grim as he waits to hear about the patient. The doctor informs Tiha that Haesung collapsed from severe acute gastritis, brought on by extreme stress and exhaustion. With a knowing glance, he adds that he expected this after seeing the baby's face, asking Tiha to keep the incident quiet. Later, Tiha visits a conscious Haesung in her hospital room. He apologizes, admitting he's likely the cause of her stress. Pushing past her own discomfort, Haesung immediately asks the one question on her mind, if Jawon's test results are back yet. Tiha silently offers her an envelope. Her hands tremble as she unfolds the paper inside. The paternity test results are in. It's a perfect match. With the truth confirmed, Tiha coldly announces his decision. He declares that he will be taking Jawon to his family's main house. Haesung's head snaps up, her eyes wide with shock and disbelief. Before she can protest, he delivers the final blow, warning her that if she resists, he will file a lawsuit. This isn't a negotiation, it's a declaration of what's to come. Tiha watches her, unfazed by her distress. He tells her to go ahead and file a lawsuit if she wants, but advises her not to push herself too hard. Desperate, Haesung pleads that she is Jawon's mother, but Tiha's response is ice cold. He declares that the child will soon be his. The crushing reality sets in. She envisions herself standing alone against his legion of lawyers, a battle she has no hope of winning. As she grips the test results, a flicker of defiance sparks in her eyes. This fight isn't over yet. Gazing at the peacefully sleeping Jawon, Haesung knows she can never give him up. From her hospital bed, she makes a desperate plea to Tiha, offering to do anything. She even begs to stay as his nanny, just so she can be the one to raise him. But Tiha, looking completely drained, cuts her off. He dismisses her offer, telling her she's far too young to dedicate her entire life to one child. His condescending rejection doesn't break her. Instead, a fire ignites within her. She is not a nanny, she is his mother. Haesung's voice cracks with desperation. She reminds Tiha that he told her to yield for the child's sake. She agrees not to file a lawsuit she can't win, but demands to know why he won't even let her be the nanny. Her frustration boils over, and she shouts, questioning what right he has to stop her. The sudden noise startles Jawon, making him cry. Overcome with guilt, Haesung immediately reaches for him. She takes the crying baby into her arms, whispering apologies until he quietly settles against her, safe and sound. As Haesung soothes the baby, she quietly notes that he's drooling and probably teething. The tense standoff between her and Tiha finally breaks. Looking him in the eye, she makes an unexpected offer, a chance to hold the child. Stunned, he asks if she's serious. With a firm nod, she gently places Jawon into his waiting arms. For the first time, Tiha holds the baby he's fought so hard for. He stares down at the small child, a completely new and unfamiliar emotion washing over him as Jawon rests against his chest. The moment Jawon is in Tiha's arms, the baby looks up and breaks into a huge, happy smile. For Tiha, it's like seeing a ghost. A memory of his younger brother, with that exact same innocent grin, flashes before his eyes. The resemblance is shocking. Haesung, watching them, quietly notes that the fever medicine is working well. She adds that Jawon is a tough kid who smiles even when he's sick. But her comment breaks the spell. Overwhelmed, Tiha abruptly turns his back and walks away, leaving a stunned Haesung behind. Without another word, Tiha announces he's leaving. He pauses at the door, promising he'll see her again before it clicks shut. Haesung is left standing there, holding Jawon and trying to process what just happened. Later that night, in a quiet apartment, pediatrician Kim Sang-jin unwinds after a long day. Fresh from a shower, he grabs a cold beer and plops down on the couch, completely unaware of the drama. He hums a little tune while scrolling through his phone, enjoying a rare moment of peace. While relaxing, pediatrician Sang-jin's mind drifts to the woman from the hospital, Lee Haesung. He remembers being stunned by her appearance, thinking a celebrity had just walked in. The more he thinks about it, the more she reminds him of someone else, a woman named Seo Haeju. The resemblance is uncanny. Acting on a hunch, he searches for Seo Haeju online, only to find her social media has been silent for a full year. He takes a swig of beer, a suspicion growing. He can't shake the feeling that Haesung is definitely hiding something. The pediatrician, Kim Sang-jin, flashes back to his first encounter with Haesung. He remembers pointing out that the father's information was blank on the baby's form. But instead of answering, Haesung got defensive, questioning if it was even relevant and saying she'd tell the nurse later. In a luxurious office, Gang Hyun pours a drink for a weary-looking Moon Tae-ha, remarking that he looks like he needs it. Getting straight to the point, Gang Hyun brings up the baby, Jawon. He mentions the child looks a lot like Taeha's older brother, right down to the way he frowns. Taeha's expression darkens as he coldly dismisses the idea as nonsense. Despite his sharp denial, his mind drifts back to his meeting with the woman and her child, a memory he can only describe as dazzling. Moon Taeha's thoughts drift back to holding the baby. He remembers seeing his late brother's bright, unlived future shining in the child's face. In that single moment, the baby became precious to him. He figures that if he felt such a powerful connection, then the mother must feel it 1,000 times more. He flashes back to her desperate plea, asking if she could be the one to raise Jawon. The memory cuts deep. Taeha's hand tightens around a photo of his brother as Gang Hyun quietly pours him another drink. As Moon Tae-ha sips his drink, he admits things are getting complicated. It would be so much easier if Haesung just gave up, but he can't shake the feeling she knew exactly what she was doing when she asked him to hold the baby. She's clever, he'll give her that. The next day, Taeha strides through the hospital corridors when a nurse stops him. Recognizing him as Lee Haesung's guardian, she informs him that she was just on her way to deliver some news about baby Jawon's medical examination. Taeha's expression hardens as he asks what it is. The nurse explains that Haesung must have been too frantic to complete Jawon's medical form, leaving the father's section blank. She hands the clipboard to Taeha, asking him to fill in the missing details. Taeha confidently takes it, planning to just use his late brother's information. But as he glances at the paper, he stops cold. Baby Jawon is blood type A, while Haesung is type B. Taeha's mind reels. His brother was also type B. A cold realization hits him. Two type B parents cannot possibly have a type A child. Elsewhere, Haesung stands silently in the shower, letting the hot water wash over her, a brief escape from the chaos. Back in her room, she listens as two sitters admire her baby. They coo over how the child has the CEO's handsome looks and her own gentle personality, a remark that leaves a heavy silence in its wake. The sitters gossip about baby Jawon, noting he looks just like his powerful CEO father. His future is set, they say. Their idle chatter cuts deep. Haesung turns off the shower, her resolve wavering. Is she keeping her promise to her late sister, Haeju, or is this just selfish greed? She remembers the desperate plan. Haeju used her name to register the birth in Korea after getting pregnant in Paris. It was a miraculous coincidence that she, too, was in Paris at that exact time, a twist of fate that might be their only hope. Haesung recalls her sister's final wish, a solemn promise to love and protect baby Jawon. But her resolve crumbles as she thinks of Taeha. He is just as fierce in his desire to protect the child, even willing to claim Jawon as his own. She wonders if this exhausting fight is pointless when they both want the same thing. Sighing, she notices a button has fallen from her robe. She steps out to ask the caregiver for a new gown but stops dead. Taeha is standing right over the crib, watching her in a reflection. Caught off guard, Haesung clutches her loose robe. Taeha's gaze is intense for a moment before he turns and firmly shuts the door, giving her privacy. He then pulls a neatly folded gown from his coat and hands it to her. He explains that he asked the sitters to leave so they could talk alone. The conversation starts safely, with him noting that Jawon seems to be doing fine. Haesung agrees, but the mood shifts when he suddenly asks how she is. The unexpected concern catches her completely off guard, making her flinch. Taeha calmly tells Haesung to rest, promising they can talk properly after she's discharged. He turns and leaves the room, his expression unreadable. But the moment the door closes, his true plan is revealed. Waiting in the hall, his assistant, Chief Hong, is handed a small, folded paper. The order is swift and serious. Get an urgent DNA test. Taeha reveals the samples are strands of hair belonging to baby Jawon and Lee Haesung. While feigning concern, he was secretly making his next calculated move. Taeha analyzes the paperwork, and a glaring inconsistency stops him cold. The medical questionnaire lists Haesung's blood type as B, while the birth record says it's A. He knows she wouldn't make a mistake like that. One of these documents has to be a lie. A vision of Haesung, looking fragile and lost, flashes in his mind. He truly hopes it was an unintentional error, because he doesn't want to be the one to deliver a truth that could completely break her. He can't bear the thought of shattering her with his own hands. At the hospital, pediatrician Kim Sang-jin is interrupted by a knock from Nurse Choi. She bursts in, buzzing with juicy gossip. She excitedly tells him that baby Jawon's guardian has been admitted to the hospital's exclusive VIP ward.
But the real shocker is why.
She doesn't have all the details, but she reveals that the hospital's vice director himself ordered the baby's medical records to be uploaded. The news is so wild, she had to tell him. Sang-jin is left completely speechless, processing this unexpected, high-level involvement. With a charming smile, Dr. Kim Sang-jin thanks Nurse Choi for the juicy gossip, telling her he would have missed this crucial detail without her. After she eagerly rushes off to get him coffee, his friendly expression drops. Alone in his office, his thoughts return to Hae-sung. He pulls up her patient file, but her VIP status locks him out of everything except her birth date. It's close to someone else he knows, but the month is wrong. He wonders if he's just being paranoid over a simple resemblance, or if there's a deeper connection. Alone in his office, Dr. Sang-jin starts connecting the dots. The vice director's personal involvement, the blank father's name on the paperwork, and her stay in a VIP ward that costs a fortune. The red flags are overwhelming. Meanwhile, in another office, a finger taps on a desk. The DNA results reveal an impossible truth: genetic mismatch, but identical maternal lineage. They're related, but not as mother and child. Moon Tae-ha lets out a heavy sigh. His subordinate states the obvious. If they share a maternal line, Hae-sung is most likely the baby's aunt. But her orphanage records mention no sister. This whole mess is becoming a massive headache. Tae-ha starts firing off orders, demanding his team re-examine Hae-sung's entire past, from the orphanage to the hospital. He then adds another crucial task: find all CCTV footage of a man named Tae-hyun with Hae-sung in Paris. Tae-ha needs to know what secret she's hiding, and he wants answers in 2 days. Moon Tae-ha lights a cigarette, his thoughts swirling around Lee Hae-sung. He recalls her calm expression as she told her audacious lie, acting as if it were some noble duty. He doesn't doubt her sincerity. Her tears were genuine, and she asked for nothing in return. But since a child's future is involved, he can't simply let it go. Overwhelmed by a strange feeling, he crushes the cigarette in his hand. The confusing emotions are giving him a massive headache as he tries to figure out his next move. Moon Tae-ha runs a hand through his hair, the stress getting to him. He decides that now that the child is safe, it's time to cut ties with Lee Hae-sung. He crushes his cigarette, trying to snuff out any pity he feels for her. But his resolve wavers. He can't shake the memory of her desperate face, wondering if there's a good reason for her lies. He just hopes this whole mess can end without being cruel to anyone. Meanwhile, far away, Hae-sung stirs in her sleep as her eyes slowly flutter open. Hae-sung is jolted awake by a commotion outside. Annoyed that the noise might wake Jawon, she steps onto her balcony to see what's happening. Below, the area is swarming with flashing police lights as an officer yells for people to stay back. Confused and alarmed, she quickly opens her phone to the apartment's community board. It's exploding with panic messages. Rumors of a violent robbery on the first floor are flying, with one neighbor claiming they saw a victim being carried into an ambulance. Something terrible has happened right in her building. Her eyes fly across the panicked messages. The attacker is still loose, and the robbery resulted in a fatal outcome. A wave of sorrow washes over her for the victims, and she clasps her hands together, praying for them. But then, a cold dread seeps in as she reads the details again. The first floor of her building, that's directly below her unit. The proximity of the danger sends a shiver down her spine. With Jawon to protect, she feels utterly trapped, unable to flee into the chaos outside. Nearly midnight, Hae-sung's anxiety spikes as she reads that the attacker is still at large. She chose this supposedly safe neighborhood for Jawon, but now terror is all she feels. She clutches a mug, trying to convince herself the police presence downstairs is enough to protect them. Her fragile calm shatters when her phone rings at the exact moment a loud knock echoes from her front door. Startled, she cautiously answers the call. A man's voice cuts through the line, telling her he's outside and to open up. Utterly confused, Hae-sung questions the voice on the phone. With her heart pounding, she reaches for the door, the digital lock beeping as it unlocks. The door clicks open, and Hae-sung stares in shock. She whispers Moon Tae-ha's name, completely stunned to see him standing in her doorway. His expression is cold and unreadable as he gives her a direct command: pack only what she needs. He tells her they are going to his house. Flustered, she asks why he's suddenly here. Tae-ha leans in close, his intense gaze fixed on hers. He states plainly that he has no intention of leaving the child in a place this dangerous. Tae-ha lays out the grim facts. It was a robbery and a serious attack. Worse, One of the culprits escaped and could be hiding right inside the apartment complex. With a dangerous man on the loose, Tiha explains it's too risky for her to be alone with the child. He insists they must stay at his place for their own protection. Realizing the danger, Hae-sung agrees. He makes it clear, this is about Jawon's immediate safety and has nothing to do with their other issues. With the danger laid bare, Hae-sung finally relents and promises to get ready quickly. Soon, they are in Tia's car, speeding away from the apartment complex. During the silent drive, Tiha reflects on his actions. He admits that coming to find her was an impulsive decision. The moment he saw the police commotion outside her building, his first thought was a sharp fear for her safety. He remembers a solemn promise made to someone in a hospital bed, a desperate plea to protect them. He realizes this powerful urge must be because of that vow. When they arrive at his home, he leads her to a guest room, explaining he lives alone. After telling her to get some rest, he leaves her to it. She quietly thanks him as the door shuts. Turning around, she's stunned to see a baby crib already set up in the room. Hae-sung stared at the crib, completely baffled. Tiha said he lived alone, so why was this here? She noticed the cute stuffed animals and imagined the serious CEO in a store, carefully choosing a rabbit doll. The oddly sweet image brought a blush to her cheeks. She quickly chided herself for such silly thoughts, especially now. After gently placing the sleeping Jawon in the bed, she couldn't shake the strange feeling. In another room, Tiha stood under the shower's hot spray, hoping the water would wash away the day's tension. After a shower, Tiha dressed impeccably for the day. He'd only managed 2 hours of sleep and figured he'd need coffee before heading to work. Just as he was leaving, a soft babble from the guest room caught his attention. Knowing he couldn't just walk in, he cautiously approached the door and took a peek. Inside, Hae-sung was sleeping peacefully on the bed. Beside her, little Jawon was wide awake in his crib, making quiet baby noises. The unexpected domestic scene made the powerful CEO hesitate for a moment. Just as Tiha was about to leave, Jawon started to cry. The powerful CEO didn't hesitate, slipping back into the room. He gently placed a pacifier in the baby's mouth, instantly calming him. He watched the quiet child, wondering if this was what it felt like to be a father. It was an awkward, but not unpleasant feeling. After one last glance at the sleeping Hae-sung, he silently closed the door. On a call with Chief Hong, it's revealed Tiha had been preparing the room since dawn. Over the phone, a worried Chief Hong questioned Tiha's impulsive decision to bring Hae-sung and the child home. Tiha admitted he hadn't thought it through but insisted his house was the safest option for the baby and a way to keep an eye on the woman. Hong warned him of the massive fallout when his parents eventually discovered the truth. This situation would inevitably get tangled with Tiha's own complicated affairs. Unfazed, Tiha stated he knew the risks better than anyone. If this became his problem, he would simply handle it. Back in his office, Tiha calmly sipped his coffee, while Chief Hong sighed internally. This lovesick boss of his was acting completely out of character. Still, Hong figured that even a man who lives by the book needs to cause a little trouble now and then. Before he could say more, Tiha's phone lit up with a text. It was from Hae-sung, asking to talk. Tiha's professional mask cracked. His mind immediately jumped to the worst conclusion. He clenched his fist, wondering if she was already planning to go back to her husband. Lee Hae-sung's phone buzzed, startling her with an immediate reply to her text. She answered the call cautiously. On the other end, Moon Tiha brought up the topic of hiring a dedicated helper for baby Jawon, thinking it would make things easier for her. After a moment of hesitation, Hae-sung made a request of her own. She explained there was someone who had looked after Jawon since he was born. Even though it felt a bit shameless to ask, she admitted she'd be more comfortable with a familiar face in this new, strange environment. Relieved, Hae-sung finished her call with Tiha, thanking him for letting her stay. She sank into the lavish sofa, letting out a deep breath as she took in her surroundings. This place was like something out of a drama, a completely different world. Her thoughts were interrupted by Chief Hong, who formally introduced herself as Hae-sung's assistant during her stay. Hong assured her that everything, from meals to cleaning, would be taken care of according to her schedule. All Hae-sung had to do was ask. Overwhelmed, she simply expressed her gratitude. While the new accommodations were lavish, Hae-sung felt a deep sense of unease. Making a coffee, she told herself this was all for Jawon's sake. Just then, her phone rang. It was her friend, Yoonjo, who was in a total panic. She couldn't believe Hae-sung was living with the enemy. Hae-sung calmly explained she had no choice to protect the baby. Yoonjo warned her they'd definitely pressure her about custody, but Hae-sung saw it as an opportunity to judge Tiha's true character. Yoonjo then cut straight to the point, asking if she'd made up her mind. Yoonjo accused her of sounding like she was ready to give up custody. Hae-sung weakly replied that she was only thinking from Jawon's perspective, but her friend pushed, asking if she could really do it. Hae-sung fell silent. In her heart, the answer was a firm no, but the baby's life was on the line. Every time she agonized over it, picturing his smiling face, she reached the same painful conclusion, wondering if it would be better to send him away. Despite her inner turmoil, each day passed peacefully. While Jawon adapted perfectly, playing and smiling like always, Haesung realized she was the one struggling to adjust. Unable to sleep, she quietly crept out of her room, her thoughts drifting to Moon Tiha. Was he sleeping, or was he even home? For the past few days, she'd only seen traces that he was there, but never ran into him. She told herself he had no reason to avoid her, so she should just stop caring. But being a guest in his massive home made the entire situation feel incredibly awkward. Drawn by the beautiful night sky, Haesung decided a walk might clear her head. She slid the glass door open, but then hesitated. Standing there barefoot, she thought it just wouldn't be right to walk on the grass. A memory suddenly surfaced of a friend calling her too inflexible and restrained. The friend had told her she had no idea how thrilling it was to do something unexpected. With a wink, her friend's voice echoed in her mind, telling her to just go for it sometimes. With her friend's rebellious advice echoing in her mind, Haesung finally gave in. She stepped barefoot onto the cool grass, a small act of freedom that felt surprisingly refreshing. As she walked through the starlit garden, a rare sense of peace washed over her. She found herself wishing she'd bickered with her friend more often, just to have a clearer memory of her voice in moments like this. Lost in thought, she sat down on the steps, only to flinch as a shadow suddenly loomed behind her. She looked up, startled, to see Moon Tiha standing there. Haesung stammers his name, completely startled by his sudden appearance. Dressed in a loosely tied robe, Moon Tiha asks if she was out for a walk. Noticing what looks like a cigarette in his mouth, Haesung quickly tries to excuse herself to give him space. But he stops her, amused by her misunderstanding. He pulls the stick from his mouth. It's just a lollipop, and even offers her one. After she awkwardly refuses, he cuts through the tension and asks directly if she's uncomfortable with him. Internally, Haesung thinks the answer should be obvious. Haesung admits his presence is difficult, making her tense. A smirk plays on Tiha's lips as he leans in closer. Then, he drops a bombshell, asking if she wants to spend the night with him. Her face flushes red as she stammers, shocked by the ridiculous question. But Tiha's expression goes cold. He asks if she's hiding something, explaining that her extreme tension made him curious. He apologizes if he offended her, but the damage is done. Haesung panics internally, wondering if he somehow knows the truth. Moon Tiha smirks, pressing for an answer to his ridiculous proposal. Internally, Haesung panics, trying to figure out if he's just toying with her. Gathering her courage, she flatly tells him she has no interest. Tiha acts surprised and offers a quick apology for his mistake. As she turns to leave, he stops her. He admits that being rejected so bluntly is a new experience for him, and it's left a bad taste in his mouth. He moves in close behind her, his voice a low whisper as he questions how she can be so fearlessly honest, knowing what he might do. Haesung freezes solid, unable to even breathe properly. To him, she's a paradox, completely stiff with tension, yet radiating a subtle, sweet fragrance. Before she can process his words, he swiftly cups the back of her head, pulling her in and silencing her with a sudden. Before she can react, he scoops her into his arms, carrying her inside and gently setting her down. Her mind races, trying to process what's happening. Tiha's gaze drops to her bare feet. He asks why she was wandering around the garden like that, commenting on how small they are. He admits that while this isn't his usual preference, seeing her so defenseless is strangely appealing. His next move makes her entire body go stiff with shock. As the intense moment fades, Haesung questions if she should have accepted his offer. Tiha inwardly scolds himself for his own wild reaction. Breaking the silence, Haesung tells him to leave. She turns and walks away, but he quietly follows her through the garden. He thinks about how absurd their situation is, convinced she's hiding something important. Suddenly, she stops, realizing he's right behind her. His gaze locks on her, and he commands her to take off her necklace. Haesung freezes, utterly shocked by his strange demand. As she walks away, Moon Tiha's cold voice cuts through the air, telling her the necklace she's wearing doesn't suit her. The comment sends a chill down her spine. She escapes into a room, her heart pounding as a memory floods her mind. Her sister once told her that the necklace was a one-of-a-kind gift from Jawon's biological father. A wave of panic hits her. Did he say that on purpose, knowing she wasn't the original owner? Collapsing against the door, she reasons that if he knew the truth, he would have already taken Jawon. Slumped against the door, Haesung forces herself to calm down, repeating that she has to be Jawon's mom. Her mind races, questioning if she should obey his bizarre order to remove the necklace. The memory of his threats to take Jawon still rings in her ears. Yet, her thoughts drift to a different side of him, the unguarded, gentle expression he had while holding the baby. He's a man of cruel words and cold stares, but she never imagined he could also show such tenderness. His contradictory nature leaves her completely baffled. A startling memory floods Haesung's mind, the moment she boldly asked Moon Tae if he wanted to spend the night with her. She collapses, thinking she must have been crazy to make such an offer. Later, she tries to regain her composure while talking to Chief Hong. Haesung asks for restaurant recommendations for an upcoming meeting with a friend. Observing that she rarely gets out, Chief Hong suggests they go shopping together. She mentions the new sitter is arriving soon, making it the perfect opportunity for Haesung to finally get a change of scenery. Haesung agrees that a change of pace sounds good. But when Chief Hong suggests a newly redeveloped street, the idea of a crowd triggers a wave of panic. She immediately backpedals, telling the chief she must be busy and asking for a recommendation for a quiet place instead. Later, Chief Hong reports this strange reaction to Moon Tae. She explains that Haesung seems to actively avoid people and tries to hide her face in public. Taeha's eyes narrow. He calls her behavior a peculiarity and orders his assistant to report any and all strange activities. Tae asks his assistant if there's a reason Haesung hides her face. The investigation reveals a shocking detail. 2 other girls were abandoned at the orphanage on the same day as Haesung. 1 girl is accounted for, but the other's identity and records have been completely erased. Tae speculates this mystery girl could be the child's true mother. The assistant adds that all of Haesung's past payments were made in cash. Stranger still, a phone record from her time in France shows she made a call where both the caller and receiver were her. Tae contemplates the puzzle. The intentionally erased records strongly suggest the mystery girl comes from no ordinary family. This woman clearly needed to hide her past. But the person covering her face now is Lee Haesung. A smirk plays on his lips. This is getting interesting. He decides he needs to uncover her true intentions. He recalls the genuine worry he saw on her face for the child's future and resolves to put a stop to her anxiety. A cunning glint appears in his eye as he wonders who said they'd go easy on whom. In the middle of the night, Haesung slips into Taeha's bedroom. She gently wakes him, apologizing for the sudden intrusion. Startled, Tae sits up, his eyes widening when he sees it's her. Before he can fully process the situation, Haesung's voice cracks with pure panic. She frantically tells him that the baby, Jawon, is gone. Her words hang in the air as a chilling image flashes through her mind. The baby's crib is completely empty, with nothing but 2 stuffed animals left behind. Taeha's mind struggles to catch up. The kid is gone? Haesung frantically explains she put Jawon to sleep, but he simply vanished. Her mind races with worst-case scenarios, wondering if he's hurt somewhere. As her panic mounts, Tae grabs his phone and makes a swift call. A moment later, he lowers the phone. He looks at Haesung and relays the message from his assistant, Chief Hong. A woman has the baby. Haesung's eyes widen in disbelief as tears begin to fall, the shocking news hitting her like a physical blow. Lee Haesung wakes up in a panic sweat, tears in her eyes. She grabs Moon Tae, frantically asking why Chief Hong was there and if baby Jawon is okay. Tae calmly explains that the child is fine. The chief just took him for a bit because he was crying and she was sleeping too soundly to wake up. As he pulls her close to comfort her, Haesung suddenly realizes their close proximity under the covers. Just then, the bedroom door clicks open, interrupting the moment. Tae scoffs, annoyed by the intrusion. The panic finally subsides, replaced by pure humiliation. Haesung cringes, realizing she just barged into a man's room in her nightgown after claiming she had no interest in him. Tae internally calls her reckless, but still offers her a bottle of water to calm her nerves. Downstairs, the mystery is solved. The woman, Yoonjo, is holding a perfectly safe Jawon, and alongside Chief Hong, she apologizes for the massive misunderstanding. With the baby back in her arms, Tae smoothly diffuses the tension, dismissing the entire ordeal as a minor incident. Now that the chaos has subsided, Haesung apologizes for barging into Tae's room. She admits she was just too frantic to think straight. Tae is surprisingly understanding, reasoning that any mother would panic if her child disappeared. Changing the subject, he mentions her plan to visit her house. Haesung confirms she needs to pick up a few things. Tae immediately instructs her to go with his driver. When she insists on going alone, he firmly tells her that isn't an option, making her wonder if this is protection or surveillance. Sensing she has no other choice, Haesung reluctantly agrees to his terms and thanks him. Later, arriving at her apartment, Tae's assistant takes her luggage to the car while she runs inside to quickly vacuum. Stepping into her home, an unfamiliar feeling washes over her. As she cleans, she wonders how long she'll be stuck at Tae's house, especially since the robber is still on the loose. Her eyes land on a framed photo of her and Jawon, a painful reminder of the happy life they were building here. She hopes they can return soon. Finished with her errands, Haesung leaves her apartment, choosing to take the dark, unlit stairs. As she descends, she hears footsteps echoing behind her. A shadowy man in a cap seems to match her every step, sending a chill down her spine. Her heart pounds with the terrifying thought that it could be the robber. Reaching the bottom, she's startled by a figure, but it's only Tiha's assistant waiting for her. The man from the stairs walks right past, just another resident. Haesung breathes a sigh of relief, though the real culprit is still at large. Haesung returns, her heart still heavy with anxiety. She finds comfort in knowing Jawon is safe in this house. To her surprise, Tiha is waiting for her, gently holding the sleeping baby. He explains his schedule got mixed up, which is why he's home so early. After handing Jawon back to her, he tells her to put the child down and join him for a meal. Haesung is completely stunned to find a lavish, fancy dinner spread across the table. Tiha casually says he just had it delivered. Tiha commands Haesung to sit, and she nervously obeys. The meal is painfully awkward, with only the soft clinking of cutlery breaking the silence. Noticing she's barely eating, Tiha asks if she's uncomfortable. Haesung confesses she finds him difficult to face. Amused by her honesty, he places his fork down and decides to end the meal. He then pivots the conversation, coldly reminding her of the proposals she made, asking to raise the child or even just be a nanny. The sudden shift in topic leaves her completely stunned. Tiha confronts her about her earlier offers. Haesung quietly confirms them, but then she folds completely. She agrees to cooperate with any legal proceedings and promises not to file a lawsuit. This easy surrender makes Tiha suspicious. He demands to know what she really wants. Her only condition is surprisingly simple. She just wants visitation rights. This answer seems to utterly bore him. His expression hardens as he stands, calling her name to get her attention. Then he drops a bombshell, asking her directly if she truly loved his late brother, Moon Taehyun. Tiha demands to know what she truly wants. The question echoes in her mind, triggering painful memories of her lonely childhood. All she ever wanted was a family, a deep, unbreakable bond with someone connected by blood. As the past fades, a new determination hardens her gaze. Looking straight at Tiha, she makes a silent promise to her late sibling. She will not give up on Jawon, because this man now holds the one thing she has craved her entire life. Haesung is completely blindsided by his question about his late brother. All she can think about is creating a safe environment for Jawon, a future where she can remain his mother. Clutching her chest, she stammers, asking why his feelings for a dead man are important now. Tiha looks at her with an unreadable expression, his only response a cold, maybe. With that, he abruptly stands, announcing that the meal is over. He turns and walks away, leaving a stunned Haesung all alone at the table. Left alone, Haesung is completely stunned. His question about his brother, Moon Taehyun, echoes in the silence, leaving her unable to speak. Her mind flashes back to her late sibling, Haeju, and the man who loved her. She realizes Taehyun must have fallen for Haeju, likely never imagining he was mistaking his lover for her sibling. She wonders what kind of person Taehyun really was, especially compared to his cold older brother. A friend's words resurface, describing Haeju as someone who was only ever soft for the man she loved. Haesung sits with a friend, who asks about the legal proceedings. She confirms she has agreed to move forward, though it will take time. The thought of being separated from Jawon is agonizing, but she clutches onto the hope that visitation rights will allow her to see him. Holding the baby close, she sees a familiar resemblance and strengthens her resolve. She decides she will continue to live diligently for him. Her friend watches on, silently pleading with her not to force a smile when she's so clearly in pain. Her friend sees right through Haesung's brave face, but Haesung insists she has to leave. Worried that her in-laws are having her followed, she entrusts Jawon to her friend's care. She steels herself to meet her father-in-law, the man who is technically Haeju's father. At their meeting, he immediately comments on her striking resemblance to her sister. He then casually asks how Haeju is doing these days. Haesung looks him dead in the eye and delivers the devastating truth. Haeju is dead. The man's world visibly shatters, his face frozen in utter shock. The man's composure shatters as Haesung explains what happened. She tells him Haeju passed away in April from acute leukemia. Her treatment started too late. His hands tremble as he asks the one question that haunts him. Did Haeju resent him? Haesung reveals the opposite. Haeju is grateful for the childhood he gave her. But this kindness hides a bitter truth. A memory surfaces, showing the moment he abandoned his adopted daughter, Haeju, right after having his own biological child, effectively erasing her from his perfect family picture. A memory of Haeju surfaces in Haesung's mind. Her sister had made a choice to protect herself, leaving everything behind with only gratitude. Back in the present, she tells the devastated man that Haeju had already settled her affairs before she passed. Haesung recognizes that he must have loved Haeju once, just as she now loves Jawon. The thought makes his actions even more unforgivable. Unseen from the doorway, Moon Tiha recognizes the man as the vice president of Eugen Entertainment, wondering what's happening. The weight of it all makes Haesung worry. Across the cafe, Moon Tiha sits with a friend, Gang Hyun, who immediately recognizes the woman with the vice president. He identifies her as Seo Haeju, the VP's daughter and a former child actress. This confirms Tiha's suspicion. Lee Haesung is Seo Haeju. Gang Hyun wonders why she quit acting, but dismisses the idea of marriage. He claims the greedy VP would have thrown a massive wedding. Instead, he drops a bombshell. Word on the street is that Haeju had a child in secret, making her father's family man reputation a total lie. Gang Hyun smirks, remembering Tiha had a huge crush on Seo Haeju back in high school. He asks if he's still interested. Tiha, surprised his friend recalled that, takes a slow sip of his drink. Gang Hyun finds the whole situation fascinating, especially the rumor that she has a child but isn't married. Tiha avoids the question, simply saying the coffee is good. During a formal dinner, an influential chairman heaps praise on Moon Tiha, admiring his capabilities and polite demeanor. Deciding enough business has been discussed, the man smoothly steers the conversation toward personal matters. As he pours Tiha a drink, he gets straight to the point. The chairman reveals he has a daughter of marriageable age and would like to arrange a meeting. To test the waters, he pointedly asks Tiha if he is currently seeing anyone, making his matchmaking intentions crystal clear. Tiha's expression remains unreadable. Moon Tiha politely declines the chairman's matchmaking attempt. He explains that due to personal reasons, he's not in a position to meet someone new. He adds that since it's the vice minister's precious daughter, he must respectfully refuse. The chairman graciously accepts his answer, realizing he was too hasty given Tiha's recent family loss. Later, exhausted in the car, his assistant asks if he drank a lot. Tiha confirms he did. As the car drives on, his mind is stuck on one single word: marriage. Tiha considers marriage a duty he must eventually fulfill, though he feels no passion for it. He wonders if he could find a partner who would accept his child and be satisfied with a purely public role. His greatest fear, however, is that this person might cause the child anxiety. He questions if a mother is even necessary, deciding the only purpose would be to provide emotional stability. The ideal woman would have to be harmless, calm, and kind. As an image of Lee Haesung holding a baby flashes through his mind, he lets out a weary sigh. Riding in the car, Moon Tiha loosens his tie, an undeniable restlessness settling over him. His mind keeps circling back to Lee Haesung. He got exactly what he wanted, her cooperation, which gives him time to expose her secrets. Yet he feels unsatisfied. Tiha scoffs, convinced she thinks she's a good liar who is underestimating her opponent. But then he recalls his own strange question to her about loving his brother. He can't figure out why he asked, or what answer he was truly expecting to hear from her. As Moon Tiha sits in his car, one question hammers his brain. Why can't he stop thinking about that woman? Her face and her vague, dismissive words replay in an endless loop he can't escape. He's completely baffled by his own obsession. Miles away, Lee Haesung puts on a brave face for her friend, claiming she'll survive with just visitation rights. But once she's alone, the mask crumbles. She admits the truth to herself. The thought of being separated from Jawon, even for a moment, is absolutely devastating. The dead of night is shattered by a surprise visitor. At 2 a.m., Lee Haesung is shocked to find Moon Tiha standing in her home. He strides towards her with an unfamiliar, intense energy she has never seen before. The air crackles with tension as he closes the distance between them. Haesung realizes he's been drinking. His gaze drops to her simple night dress as he vaguely asks if she has to stay like that. Utterly bewildered by his strange question, Haesung can only ask what on earth he means. Moon Tiha's gaze drops, landing on her bare feet. Confused, Haesung asks what that has to do with anything, but he simply says her name and steps closer. His hand gently cups her chin, forcing her to meet his intense stare. Her heart hammers in her chest. He is far too close. Leaning in until their faces are just inches apart, he asks a cutting question. If she planned on giving up this easily, why didn't she just surrender from the very beginning? His words hang in the tense air between them. Tiha's words are like ice. He coldly states that it would have been easier for everyone if she had just taken what she could and disappeared. Then he delivers the final blow, ordering her not to stand in front of him, looking so pathetic. He turns his back, ready to walk out on her completely. But as he takes a step, Haesung whispers a broken plea. In a final, desperate move, she reaches out, her hand tightly grabbing the cuff of his pants, refusing to let him leave. Haesung's desperation hardens into defiance. If she must receive compensation, then she demands money, as much as he can possibly give. Tiha lets out a short, cynical laugh, almost amused by her sudden greed. He agrees without a second thought, telling her to name her price. Suddenly flustered, she admits she doesn't know what amount is appropriate. He then asks why she suddenly changed her mind. Haesung confesses it's because of visitation rights. Seeing Jaewon in the future would mean she would have to see Taeha too, a reality she refuses to accept. Taeha's expression remains cold as he agrees with her logic. It's better, he says, than being uncomfortable every time they would have to meet. Promising to send the document soon, he turns his back on her and walks out the door. Left alone, Haesung lets out a shaky breath, trying to convince herself this is enough. But the moment Taeha is out of sight, his composure shatters. He storms into his own apartment, violently throwing his jacket to the floor before stumbling into the shower fully clothed, collapsing in utter despair. Haesung is reeling, mortified by her own words. She remembers the look she received, as if she were a crazy person. But it's her desperate expression that's burned into Taeha's mind. Standing fully clothed under the pounding water, he rips his shirt open, a button flying off. He can't understand why he's losing control for the first time in his life. Cursing himself, he admits that he's the worst kind of person, a complete and utter monster for what he's done to her. Finishing a call, Sang-jin instructs the person on the other end to contact him with any news. Just then, another man enters the office, demanding to know what trouble Sang-jin has caused. Sang-jin casually corrects him, stating it was Moon Taeha who made the mess. The man is stunned by his familiar tone, questioning why he was asked to bring such a massive sum of money. Sang-jin explains it's settlement cash to clean up Taeha's problem. A look of dawning horror crosses the man's face as he realizes all that money is for Lee Haesung. Staring at the bank book in disbelief, Haesung whispers that the amount is too much. Sang-jin disagrees, telling her she underestimates her own value. After all, she gave birth to a direct descendant of the Taegang family. He then reminds her of her previous desperation, recalling that she said she'd accept any position just to be able to raise the child. Hope flashes in her eyes as she eagerly agrees. With the deal set, Sang-jin stands and begins to explain a legal clause regarding children born outside of marriage, presenting his real proposal. Sang-jin calmly explains a legal point. If a father acknowledges a child born out of wedlock and then marries the mother, the child is granted full legal status. Haesung is so shocked she can barely speak. He then turns and drops the real bombshell. Citing her fierce dedication to the baby, he announces that he's thinking of getting married. Completely for the child's sake, of course. The word marriage echoes in her mind. She thought she'd be a housekeeper, not a bride. Besides, she was his brother's woman. She questions how this arrangement could ever be possible. Haesung stammers that the idea is ridiculous, questioning why he would go to such lengths. Sang-jin calmly explains it's a good deal for him. With one simple registration, he gets both a wife and a child. He tells her not to worry, clarifying it's only a contract marriage, and he will decide when it ends. Trembling, she asks what would happen if she refused. His answer is ice cold. If she says no, she will likely never see the child again. She's trapped, forced to choose between a sham marriage or a life without the baby. Sang-jin knows this plan is insane, but he also believes it's the only logical choice. He has to marry eventually, and Haesung is the best partner for the child. While he admits threatening her is a despicable move, he sees it as the only way to keep a potential problem close. Trapped, Haesung's hands tremble before she clenches them in resolve. Looking up with determination, she accepts his proposal. In her heart, she vows she can handle any lie as long as she gets to watch Jaewon grow up. With the deal sealed, Sang-jin wastes no time. Looking resolved, he tells a bewildered Haesung that they're leaving. Before she can process it, he whisks her away to a private, high-end jewelry store. He explains that if they're going to be married, they need the rings to prove it. Haesung is floored by the VIP treatment, feeling like she's stepped into another world. After telling her to pick a ring for him too, Sang-jin gently brushes her hair back, suggesting that a pair of pearl earrings would suit her perfectly. Haesung's heart hammers in her chest as Sang-jin leans in. Flustered, she quickly turns down his offer for earrings, explaining she doesn't really wear accessories and will just pick a ring. While she tries to process the sudden intimacy, a critical memory surfaces for someone else observing the case. An investigator recalls that the woman in the Paris CCTV footage always wore the same distinct earrings. The problem is, the current Lee Haesung has never been seen wearing earrings at all. A major discrepancy has just been uncovered. An investigator confirms a damning detail. Lee Haesung has no ear piercings. This is a huge problem because the woman in the Paris footage wore a specific type of earring that requires pierced ears. As Moon Taeha receives this critical new intel over the phone, his suspicions grow stronger. Back in the store, Haesung is completely in the dark. She points to a simple, plain wedding band, just wanting to get it over with. With this decision, both sides have taken one step closer. Sang-jin slides the ring onto her finger, telling her to get used to it fast. He warns that his parents aren't easy people, so their fake relationship needs to look convincing. The reality of the situation crashes down on Haesung. She pictures meeting Moon Taeha's family, imagining them as cold, intimidating figures in a giant mansion. Panicked about what to wear, her thoughts are interrupted when an assistant addresses her as Madam. Seeing Haesung's distress, the woman smiles warmly and offers to help her prepare for the important outing. Outside a fancy traditional estate, Kim Sang-jin waits for Haesung to arrive. His assistant confirms she's just pulled up and Sang-jin notes they're right on time. He suggests they head inside to wait for his parents. As the car door opens, Haesung steps out, completely transformed in a beautiful pink dress. She looks elegant, but her nerves are showing. As she walks towards Sang-jin, her mind wanders. The man she's thinking of, the name that echoes in her head, isn't her fake fiancé. It's Moon Taeha. Haesung, dressed to impress, finally comes face to face with the man occupying her thoughts, Moon Taeha. He's completely captivated. While he always found her attractive, today she looks even more beautiful. Taeha compliments her, saying the dress suits her perfectly. Taking charge, he instructs his assistant to take baby Jawon to another room so they can have a quiet meal. But then, in a surprising move, he picks up the carrier himself. Standing next to Haesung with the baby, they look just like the picture-perfect family. As they prepare to meet his family, Taeha confirms Haesung remembers their cover story. He explains his mother's health suffered after his brother passed, so this performance is crucial. Understanding the stakes, Haesung promises she'll do well. Taeha smoothly adds that while he trusts her to play the part of a mother, he's also looking forward to her role as his woman. Her head spins at his loaded words. Just then, footsteps echo nearby. A stern-looking man and woman step into view, and Haesung's eyes widen in shock. They've arrived. Haesung's heart pounds in her chest. It's Taeha's parents. She quickly composes herself and bows, offering a polite introduction. Taeha's father is stoic, but his mother is visibly overcome with emotion, covering her mouth as her husband comforts her. Haesung panics, wondering if the mother is angry. But her focus isn't on Haesung at all. With tear-filled eyes locked on the baby, she softly asks if she can hold him. Stunned by the gentle request, Haesung can only nod in agreement. Taeha's mother cradles Jawon, her voice thick with emotion as she remarks how much he looks just like Taeha. Her husband gently convinces her to eat, reminding her that she hasn't been well. The meal begins, but the air is thick with a heavy silence. Haesung is a bundle of nerves, so anxious, she can't even taste the food. Suddenly, Taeha picks up a piece of Yeonjasian with his chopsticks and gently places it in her bowl. Completely taken aback by the quiet gesture of care, Haesung can only stare at him in confusion. Haesung freezes, feeling as if she's been shot with arrows. She mentally screams at Taeha for being so bold in front of his parents. While his father clears his throat in silent disapproval, his mother is absolutely beaming. Thrilled by the sweet gesture, she also places food in Haesung's bowl, warmly calling her the new daughter-in-law. The sudden affection and the tender title make Haesung blush. It feels so strange to hear those words again, after such a long time. The meal ends with polite chatter, mostly about Jawon's age and development. As they say their goodbyes, Taeha makes a surprising move. He hands the baby carrier to Chief Hong, telling him to head out first. Haesung is confused, asking if they weren't going home immediately. Taeha simply says they should get some fresh air. He gently takes her arm, suggesting a stroll down a nearby path. He tells her the view is worth seeing as he leads her away for a quiet walk, just the two of them under the stars. The cool night air rushes past as Taeha and Haesung stroll along a path overlooking the glittering city. He breaks the silence, offering to guess her thoughts. Without missing a beat, he correctly states that she feels guilty for deceiving his parents because they were so much kinder than she expected. Totally caught off guard, Haesung tells him to stop reading her mind. Taeha coolly retorts that she shouldn't be so readable. He then confesses that he was also rethinking things, admitting that he may have been too prejudiced against her initially. Haesung admits his parents are genuinely good people, far kinder than she ever expected. For a moment, all her anxious feelings simply melt away. Seeing her smile, Taeha smirks before taking a confident step forward. He gently takes her hand, and the familiar, deep scent of which she always notices around him washes over her. He then lifts her hand to his lips, placing a soft kiss on her knuckles. He asks why she's so surprised, casually stating they'll be a married couple soon. Blushing hard, she stammers that his joke is going too far for a fake marriage. Taeha leans in, whispering that their act has to look real for the person watching. Totally stunned, Haesung asks who could possibly be following them. He calmly explains his parents sent someone to tail them, a standard procedure until their relationship is verified. He calls it an occupational hazard for the wealthy. His cold words make her flinch, but then a memory of her own precious sibling flashes in her mind. With newfound determination, she grabs his hand again and tells him to just do it, leaving Tiha confused by her sudden resolve. Taking charge, Haesung pulls Tiha closer. She declares with a blush that she will cooperate, explaining they can't make his parents suspicious. Tiha is momentarily stunned by her sudden confidence. A slow smirk then plays on his lips. Internally, he's amused and impressed, realizing just how bold this woman can be. Things were definitely getting more interesting now.